In 2015, Leanne Pooley directed the New Zealand animated documentary film 25th of April, which breathes life into the significant events of the 1915 Gallipoli campaign. By weaving together interviews, diaries, letters, and written records, this documentary provides a unique narrative perspective through the eyes of those who witnessed the campaign firsthand. The film captures the human, personal, dramatic, and authentic aspects of the campaign. As viewers embark on this journey, they are transported from the initial steps into the battlefield to the final steps out, immersing themselves in the harsh reality of a new form of warfare. 25th of April predominantly centres on the tragic campaign through the viewpoints of 5 New Zealand soldiers and an Australian nurse, all of whom are directly involved in the events. To resonate with modern audiences, their experiences are vividly dramatised, employing a reimagined animated world. The film derives its title from the date that marked the commencement of the 8-month-long battle by meticulously crafting animated recreations of life in army camps and on the battlefront. 25th of April effectively brings to life the stories of these courageous individuals. It is crucial to note that 25th of April is not a film that presents a celebratory or optimistic depiction of the Gallipoli campaign. Instead, it unflinchingly portrays the brutal reality of the events and emphasises the tremendous loss of life that transpired on the battleground. By showcasing the graphic and devastating consequences of war, the film compels viewers to confront the senseless waste of human life that occurred at Ground Zero. Through its powerful imagery and poignant storytelling, 25th of April serves as a stark reminder of the extreme cost of armed conflict. What really happened? During the early period of the First World War, Turkey stood as a steadfast ally alongside Germany. However, the British, seeking to extricate them from the conflict, orchestrated an audacious invasion on the shores of the Gallipoli Peninsula. Among the courageous fighters who took part in this military endeavour were soldiers hailing from India, Australia, and New Zealand, representing the colonial forces. These valiant troops from Australia and New Zealand in particular became known by the revered acronym ANZAC, which stands for Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. The consequential events that unfolded at Gallipoli left an indelible mark on the annals of history for these two nations. Embedded within the collective memory of New Zealand, the 25th of April assumed profound significance as a date that symbolised the nation's involvement in a deeply flawed and brutally fought battle, and serves as a poignant reminder of the immense sacrifices made by countless young men and women. Gallipoli and ANZAC are not mere words in New Zealand. They carry huge meanings and are held in the highest regard. In honour of this solemn occasion, April 25th is observed throughout the country as a public holiday dedicated to remembrance, as it is in Australia. Recognising the magnitude of the centenary commemorations of World War I, the New Zealand government officially designated the years 2015 to 16 as World War 100. This commemorative film stands as an integral part of those solemn proceedings, paying tribute to the sacrifices and hardships endured during that period in history. Who made it? Directed and written by Leanne Pooley, probably best known for The Girl on the Bridge and Beyond the Edge. Additional writers are Matthew Metcalf, Dawn Reid, and McLaren, the Formula One documentary, and Tim Woodhouse from Haunting Douglas and The Promise. David Long was responsible for the music. He's been involved in The Luminaries, The Lovely Bones, and heaps of other things that Kiwis and Aussies and even some Americans would have heard of. Who's in it? Tainui Tukuwahu as Thomas Harmy Grace. He was in Step Dave and Shortland Street, which I think is like New Zealand's version of Home and Away. Correct me if I'm wrong. Andrew Granger as Edmund Bowler. The Broken Wood Mysteries and The Letter for the King were some of the things he's been in. Chelsea Preston Crayford as Muriel Wakeford. That's the Australian nurse. She's probably best known, and definitely I remember her for this, as playing Tilly Devine in the Underbelly Razor series. She played a Cockney in that, and she's a Kiwi and plays an Aussie in this. So she's obviously got a few strings to her bow. And she was also in Megan, a pretty recent movie. Fraser Brown as George Tuck. He was in Field Punishment #1 and Orphans and Kingdoms. Matt Whelan as John Person. He was in The Tank and 3 Mile Limit. Gareth Reeves as Ormond Burton. He was in Legend of the Sea Car and the Lord of the Rings series. How strange for a Kiwi. What the critics thought. The film received mostly positive reviews in general. In New Zealand, News Hub's Tony Wright gave it 4.5 stars and described it as startlingly original, praising the use of animation to depict the depravity of war. The New Zealand Herald's Peter Calder similarly called it evocative and moving, adding that the recreation of first-hand accounts of nurses and soldiers knit together to provide a comprehensive account of the doomed 8-month campaign to take the peninsula, whose name resounds through a national myth. Graham Tuckett of stuff.co.nz gave 25th of April a negative review with 2.5 stars. He wrote that it lacked any sort of context or overview, failed to focus on any of the Ottoman soldiers, and was unoriginal. He compared it unfavourably with Tolga Ornek's Gallipoli, which came out in 2005. I'm going to get back to the focus on the Ottomans and the unoriginality part in a minute. Tom Peters and Sam Price of the World Socialist website wrote that the documentary had some moving portrayals, but also criticised it for not opposing the First World War itself, instead taking a national isolationist position. They also noted the filmmakers almost exclusively focus on what the New Zealand and Australian forces endured and a failure to convey the enormity of the Ottoman Empire's casualties. So what I'm going to say, firstly, unoriginal is a stupid comment by, who said that? Graham Tuckett. Graham, fuck off. It's a documentary, mate. It doesn't have to be original. It's about something that really happened. It doesn't have to be a fancy fictional story about your wet dreams, buddy. So, yeah. And as far as not giving a favourable view to the Ottoman soldiers or showing what they were up against, I mean, come on. It was 1915. The world was a different place. That's Australia and New Zealand, were at war. The Kiwis were fighting against the Ottomans. They weren't over there shaking hands, becoming best buddies and swapping phone numbers and whatever else. They were there to shoot each other, blow each other up. That's their fucking job, guys, right? It's not 2023 back then where everybody has to be rosy and flowers and rainbows and fluffy bunnies and all that bullshit. Life was brutal. The war was brutal. The story's telling us exactly how it was. End of story. So in the 2016 various film awards, it was nominated as Best International Film at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. I'm guessing it didn't win. At the Annecy International Animated Film Festival, it was nominated for Best Feature as well. That's about it. It did get screened as well at the Contemporary World Cinema section of the 2015 Toronto International Film Festival. The visual aspects of the film present occasional concerns that arise with the cel-shaded rendering of characters, resulting in a disproportionate appearance when compared to the backgrounds. At times, this discrepancy is subtle, but on other occasions, it becomes strikingly obvious, causing a sense of dissonance and incorrectness that can detract from certain impactful scenes. In an attempt to prevent the uncanny valley effect, which elicits a repulsive response from viewers when computer-generated human characters appear unnatural, the artist employs shaded facial areas. However, the animation lacks the necessary depth for close-ups to be truly effective. Simplistic character designs, weightless motion capture, and excessively vivid red blood contribute to the impression of 25th of April resembling a gory computer game, which they didn't get wrong. That part's pretty good. Conversely, the still ink drawings depicting the battlefield strewn with corpses possess a pretty remarkable ability to convey a sense of power and place, which the animated sequences often fail to achieve. So I feel in that regard, they probably could have got the balance a bit better. So yeah, that they kind of did get that wrong in the end. And it suggests that the film may have been more successful as a compelling graphic novel, really. But obviously, it had to be made as a movie to get out there and be seen by more people, I guess. Though, despite the filmmakers' use of the soldiers' actual words, they do struggle a bit to create believable characters capable of engaging the audience. And you got to remember, they're trying to get this across to a modern audience 108 years later. I think if this was brought out even 30 or 40 years ago, people were still fairly different back then to what they are now. But look, they did their best and they kept it true to form in that regard. So it probably says more about people of today than it does about the movie makers. There are instances, though, where the characters do come to life on the screens, but these are pretty infrequent and few and far in between. In the middle of the chaos and carnage, an extraordinary event does unfold, defying the expectations of war. As the sun hangs high in the sky, casting its scorching rays upon the battlefield, an unexpected ceasefire emerges. Smoke rises from the trenches, not from gunfire, but from the shared smoke outbreaks of the Turkish and ANZAC soldiers. In this fleeting moment of respite, an undeniable sense of respect permeates the air, forging an unlikely connection between former adversaries. However, the respite is brief, and the devastating reality of senseless slaughter soon returns. Amidst the relentless bloodshed, a new adversary arises, one that knows no boundaries. Disease, a silent and remorseless killer, stealthily infiltrates the ranks, adding a sinister layer to the already unbearable conditions faced by the soldiers. The stifling heat becomes an additional enemy, sapping their strength and testing their resilience. As the bombings rage on, hope seems to dwindle. The impossible fight for Chinook by air pushes the soldiers to their limits, both physically and emotionally. Yet, it is through the eyes and voices of the Anzacs themselves that these familiar stories take on a fresh and hauntingly intimate perspective. Their first-hand accounts lend a raw authenticity to the narrative, immersing the audience in the horrors of war. These harrowing tales are brought to life through a unique blend of animation styles. The battlefield, trench, and hospital ship scenes are depicted with a mesmerising 2D animation, characterised by craggy, vaguely cubist shapes and jerky movements. This unconventional visual approach creates a mesmerising and somewhat unsettling effect, paradoxically drawing the viewers even deeper into the visceral experiences of the soldiers than live-action footage ever could. I agree with that. Within the animated realm, there is room for flights of fancy where the imagination takes flight against the grim reality. A haunting corpse-eye view captures a burial at sea, evoking a profound sense of loss and sacrifice. That's pretty cool. The pool of blood transforms into a vibrant field of poppies, symbolising the resilience and beauty that can emerge from the darkest of circumstances. And in a shockingly realistic portrayal, a sequence depicts the relentless torment of lice, leaving no detail untouched and offering a stark reminder of the unforgiving conditions endured by the soldiers. At its most powerful moments, the film reaches epic heights, weaving together the threads of humanity against the brutality. In one such scene, the trenches fall eerily silent because it's mail day. The men eagerly devour each word of their cherished letters from home, temporarily escaping the horrors that surround them. The filmmakers ingeniously transport these battle-weary warriors, transforming their dark foxholes into bright windows into another world. a moment of sheer magic that tugs at the heartstrings of even the most hardened souls. Remarkably, the use of animation does not grant a license for gratuitous gore or explicitness. Instead, it navigates the fine line between capturing the brutality of war and preserving the dignity of the fallen. It is a testament to the film's commitment to preserving the humanity amidst the inhumanity, leaving a lasting impact on the audience's hearts and minds. I'm not a huge anime guy, and before sitting through the entire movie recently, I did have around a half a dozen or so failed attempts at completing it. Personally, I did find the stories interesting and most definitely would have been up for a listen if they were in a podcast or an audiobook. But the animation just didn't hit my sweet spot. That's not to say it won't be something that you're going to be interested in watching, as I think it comes down to personal choice. If animation's your thing and you have an interest in learning about war, there's a fair chance you'll enjoy this. What's really important here as well, though, is that it tells the story of New Zealand's involvement in a crucial military campaign, which helped to forge their nation on the world stage. Sometimes I feel like New Zealand is the forgotten stepchild of the British Empire. And with my own family connection, my great-grandfather was from Christchurch and he fought in the First World War. The overall story does hit me right in the feels. From a storytelling point of view, I'm giving it a solid 8 out of 10. However, as far as the animation goes, I'm lowering that to a 6. But as I said, an animation lover will likely see that second rating differently to me. Again, it's all a matter of opinion. It's definitely something to put on your watch list if you're a war movie guy, though. So if you can get your hands on a copy, give it a watch and let me know what you think. All right, thanks for listening, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for future episodes. Until then, I'll see you when I see you.